Okay, kicking it off. All right, I say it every time that I'm going to update that intro, and I never do. Anyway, here we are. Hello, I'm Eric. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to today's little adventure. We are going to be doing some fall photo editing, which we all love. Always good to see some fall colors and to, yeah, just kind of enjoy that. Probably gonna start in New Jersey. Gonna start in Hacklebarney State Park. Make this a little taller. Um, and then we may jump down to Virginia because I've got some photos uh, from Shenandoah that I've kind of been itching to do a little bit. So maybe we'll do some of those. Um, anyway, yeah. So that's what we're gonna be doing. As always, I'm editing in Adobe Lightroom, but the techniques I'm gonna be using are should be fairly universal to whatever photo editing software you're using. So if you have any questions on that, please feel free to jump in. If you have any comments on it, you want to throw ideas my way, by all means. Yeah, this is, and if you're watching and want to, you're a photographer, you're an artist, you want to share your art, throw it in the chat. This is as much of a, I invite that. It's an open forum. We want this to be as much of a conversation as possible. Uh, Given that it's kind of weirdly one way, because it's my channel. But yeah, with that said, we'll jump right in. Oh, real quick, Evelyn and Mia, if you're watching, hi, you guys are great. Anyway, moving right along. Protect those kittens, Evelyn and Mia. Protect those kittens. Anyway, to everyone else, that's gibberish, but might make them happy. Anyway, moving on. Here we go. So, Adobe Lightroom. This is where we're at, and yeah, we're gonna start. This is Hacklebarney State Park. These are shots from yesterday. Ah, shots from yesterday. Hacklebarney it's kind of an out of the way park. It's fairly small. The longest trail they've got there as a loop from the parking lot or down and back or out and back is just about 2.5 miles, give or take. So it's not a huge park. It's not a lot of elevation, not a huge thing, but it's got some really really nice little vistas, and it's a kind of nice tucked away little corner of New Jersey. So anyway, New Jersey's kind of hitting peak season right now. We're kind of coming right up on it. So here we go. So this is what we're starting with. Where do I want to start with this? This is a photo that I really love taking. This is a thing I've noticed. Like, I find myself practicing getting better. And something you notice as a photographer is that I think this is true of almost everybody, no matter almost no matter what, is that unless you know what you're gonna shoot when you go somewhere, when you show up, your first few photos of a thing are gonna be, let's see, yeah, this is my first photo of this spot. And I definitely like it. I think I love the colors. I love that I get more of the leaves and the shore and the rocks. I love the river cutting through. Gonna crop that a little bit. But it wasn't until, and I've deleted a lot of photos here I didn't like. It wasn't until I took a few photos that I realized connected with how cool this tree is, and it's like that's the centerpiece of this little spot. So that's what we're gonna work with. All right. So for starters, I want to bring the white down and get a little more definition there. I can crop this a little bit, maybe up like that. Yeah, I think like that because I want to draw the attention to that tree. I want to make sure everything draws us there, but I don't want to. You guys moved that thing. I don't like it. Um, yeah, I don't want to like lose a whole lot of the river because I do really like that. Let's see how centered is that. That's the weird question. How do you center a curve? I'm gonna go with that. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so that's the first thing. I already bring in the whites down. Now up here is my histogram, um, which yes can show me different. Will show me kind of as a spread. Like over here's are the whites. Here are the highlights. Here's the midtones, kind of the general exposure, shadows, and blacks. Um, and yeah, you see where it overlaps. That's where you see the gray, and then the individual colors. So like the reds are a little lighter in here because it's getting the trees. The greens are a little bit, they're a little darker, but they definitely stand out on their own. Yellows kind of hold this mid area, and then blues are dark, because blues are the water. I'm gonna take a sip here. This is pumpkin spice tea, by the way. I love most things about fall, pumpkin spice not being one of them. That, hmm, gonna experiment with that in the coming days. Maybe next stream I'll have a new idea for it. Anyway, yeah, so here we are. So yes, that's the histogram, and the thing you can see up here, there's a couple things you can do. One, you can see kind of how it spikes over here, kind of goes all the way up on that wall. I can't really bring that down. Let's undo whatever I just did. Uh, and if you have these two little arrows here, if you show your shadow clipping and your whites clipping. If I kind of mouse over the shadow one, you see kind of I can't really point because my mouse, but if you look down here at this rock, kind of right there, those are there's tiny little bits of blue that just pop up, and those tiny little spots are the spots where um it's so dark there's no information, it can't do anything with that, which is fine. That's like in a photo like this, everything else is pretty well balanced. That's not really an area I'm like, oh, I want to brighten that up and see it. I'm fine with that being shadowy, and they're small. It's not so much to worry about. If I go the other direction, the whites clipping, it's the whole sky. Uh, and there's a couple ways around this that I'm gonna play around with. Unfortunately, there is not enough information to do a whole lot with. I can bring the whites down, and if I zoom in here, I take the whites back up to what they were, and then I bring them down. I'm getting some more definition around the leaves, which is fine. Um, but if I bring the whites, like if I bring the highlights down, at some point all I'm doing is darkening. I'm not fine. There's not stuff in there. I'm just darkening white to gray, and that never looks good. So we're going to be playing a little bit with that. I may try a sky replacement. I haven't had the chance to play with that too much, so I may try that uh, later on. We'll see how I feel we come back to this at the end of the stream. Um, the other option with something with a photo like this is um you could do a high dynamic range shot where you darken the where you take three pictures usually enough. Take three pictures, kind of all at the same with the same framing, and obviously this is easier with a tripod, but doable if you're hand holding, as long as you can kind of just adjust your camera without pulling it away from your eye. Um, and you can crank either the shutter speed or the exposure. Um, usually it depends on depending on what's more important to you. If you want that depth of field, crank the shutter speed. If the shutter speed doesn't matter, if there's not something that's going to change if you're going, if you crank your shutter speed up. Um, and my shutter speed on this was a 50th of a second. My f-stop was f13. It was at 18 millimeters. So, uh, if I crank my f-stop up, it's gonna give me a deeper depth of field. But at 13, I've kind of got everything. Like landscape, unless you're doing stuff that you really want to pull out all the texture on, and that's amazing. Like I do that with mountain photography all the time. If you really want to pull out the texture, yeah, go up to f22, go real, or you're doing long exposures, obviously. Um, but uh, if you're doing like typical landscape photography like this shot it's f13. If I zoom in here, you can see all the detail and the texture on the leaves there and in the water. And if I go out here up to the trees here, that's all still in focus. Your depth of field is fine at f13. So you could crank that up and not really lose anything. You can also crank up the shutter speed and not really lose anything because it's not gonna because the water here isn't like shutter speeds with water. Higher shutter speed means you're gonna get more it's gonna be more crisp. You're not gonna get that kind of blurry slowing effect that you get if I did something like this. Uh, yeah, which is a long exposure of this waterfall. Uh, I'm shooting at a fifth of a second there. Um, and yeah, shooting at a fifth of a second, you get that kind of you know, blurry ghosty effect, which is cool. Like that's a effect you can absolutely go for intentionally. It's what I did. But um, above 50th of a second and above, you're just gonna get the water looking clean and sharp, which is fine. So I could have cranked up either my exposure or my aperture, my f-stop or my shutter speed, and basically what I would have done is I would have lost. This would have gotten darker. The water would have gotten darker. The trees would have gotten darker, and the sky would have gotten darker, which might have been let me pull out some definition. But if I remember that day was just kind of cloudy across the board, and there wasn't a whole lot to pull out of that. So we'll see if we do anything with it. Or I don't hate it honestly. It like it gives you like that white background. Your eyes are drawn to that tree immediately, and it kind of has this nice triangular shape, which also kind of brings your eye to the trunk, which leads up to the tree. So I know it's kind of taboo to have bright white in a photo, but I don't hate it. So we'll see what else we do. Okay, so we're gonna play with the clarity a little bit. But I don't love it. I love what that's doing to everything but the tree. I like the tree kind of being center. So we'll probably do that as a mask. Um, Dehazing, not really what I want to do on this one. Usually I love dehazing. I don't think I'm going to do it here. And texture I'm going to bring up. I'm going to do as a mask because I want to bring up the texture in the water, but I don't really want to do it on too much else because it doesn't. I don't know. Texture in this case, it kind of subtracts from just the smoothness of the scene all flowing together. Let's see. Highlights, I'm going to leave alone. Shadows, I'm going to bring up a little bit. Bring up about 40%. Um, because that will help those colors come out, and that's gonna be something we're gonna talk about in a second. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. I think I leave my blacks alone. I don't need to brighten it up. You know what? Blacks up a little bit. It's not a bad thing. Yeah, I'll bring that up about 30%. That's not too bad. I'm also gonna do this with individual colors. So let's come down and work on those. So we'll go to our color sliders, which is still, in my opinion, like Lightroom's best kept secret. Drinking more of this, even though I don't love it. I don't know if it's growing on me or I'm getting Stockholm syndromed, but doesn't taste as bad this time. Yeah, we'll keep going. All right. So I love these sliders. Top one's hue, second one's saturation, third one's luminance. Gives you tons of control over every single color. So could push sleeves more toward red. Don't really want to do that. I kind of want to push them a little more to push the. Let's see. I'm gonna push the greens a little bit toward a more vibrant green there. The yellows, I could push toward green and you get that. I could push toward orange and you get that. But that kind of has the effect of kind of turning the whole thing into one overarching color, and I don't really love that. I might push the oranges a little bit, but I think I might just lean to how cool lean to what it is right now. I'm gonna push the reds a little more toward red or toward a purple. Gotcha. Hey Ron, glad you're joining in. Yeah, and I love this stream. It can run in the background, so if you just want to occasionally click in and kind of see where I'm at, by all means. I love that. So yeah, welcome to the stream. So yeah, so now we can play with some saturations here. Let's see, I'm gonna zoom in on these leaves and take a look here, because sometimes I get some weird color fringing. Not too bad here. Actually, I don't mind the red kind of popping up around the edge there. I'm gonna work on that. We're gonna do some sky stuff. Uh, Oranges, yeah, bringing up the oranges. That's gonna pull a lot out of here. That's what I like. Yellows, I'm gonna try both. I'm gonna try one and then the other, and see what kind of does the most to the overall scene. I think I'm gonna go with orange. I'm gonna bring the oranges up and leave the yellows where they are. Maybe bring them up a little bit. Because that's the thing I've noticed is that yellow and orange tend to, and green to an extent, tend to kind of have a lot of overlap. So usually, if I don't want to like if I bring them all up, you end up with this just kind of, I don't know. It loses the contrast between the colors, and you lose a lot of the texture. So I like to try to, okay, if I bring up the greens like that, now we've got a little more detailing there. You got like the greens stand out a little more. If I bring the yellows up, I don't know. I think it makes the whole thing look a lot more homogeneous, and I don't love it. Also, we'll be able to do that with brightness as well. Blues, bring the blues up because we're gonna do some stuff with that in the water. We're gonna do a whole mask with the water as well. And then purples and magentas I'm turning down because those are gonna show up around these edges. Just when you've got an overexposed section, you got those bright whites. Um, a lot of times the border between the white and everything else. I mean, here you've got a little bit of green showing up. But a lot of times those borders end up being reds and purples, and if I can bring those down, it helps reduce some of that. So, all right. Whereas if I go back up with it, yeah, you see there's the purples kind of along these branches here and up in these guys. And if I bring those down, helps kind of yeah, helps kind of lock those in. We're gonna do some more work with that. All right, let's play with luminance. And luminance, my first one is blue. Gonna bring up the water, and we're gonna do more with that once we start masking. Reds, not a lot of reds. Let's see. The reds are mostly gonna be up here. Let's see what I want to do with them. Let's keep the reds kind of where they are. Don't see a reason to do much with them. Let's play with oranges. Yeah, orange is gonna brighten the whole scene and bring it down. This might be the spot to let the yellows pop up. Yeah, I think we'll let the yellows pop up a little bit. There we go. Greens. Yeah, let's bring the greens up. Greens because greens are what's adding contrast. Our yellows and oranges are intermixing a lot, so it's hard to exactly like pretty much every slider is a if pretty much everything that Lightroom thinks is yellow, it also thinks is orange to some degree in varying quantities. So adjusting one of those sliders is going to adjust both. But green is doing okay being its own thing, so we can bring up the greens and kind of give us some nice contrast between the yellows and oranges. Aqua, not really doing much. That can stay where it is. And then our magentas and purples, we're going to bring those down because that will give us, yeah, a little bit more definition up there. Almost looking like a painting up there, looking a little embossed. We're going to work on that. Okay, so that's the first step there. And I think I'll come back up here and bring those highlights down just a bit. Yeah, a bit of that gives us a little more definition up here. You got fewer leaves kind of dangling. I think that works. I'll bring the shadows up a touch more to kind of give us a little more of that, yeah, overall scene. Okay, now let's do some masking. We're going to start with a radial gradient. Let's start with that. This is just going to be a circle that right now will affect anything I do anything the green touches. Hey, Shelby Lynn. So yeah, anything the green touches will be affected. I'm going to invert this so it's everything outside of the green. And now I'm going to play with the clarity. And that lets me bring in more definition, everything around it, while not changing my tree. And that's good. Cool. Let's do another mask. They just did let's see. They just did a select object mask, and I want to try it. So how does this work? If I click on that, let me see. It's supposed to use AI to detect on its own. Let's see what it picks. I'm trying to get the water. There's an easy way to do this by hand, by the way, if I need to. I'm just curious to see how this effect works. This is a brand new updated Lightroom that I'm using for the first time. Okay, we got that. Yeah, okay. That's okay. I see how this mask is kind of working. I'm not going to use it for this one, but I understand it. Okay. Let's add a new mask. Let's do yeah, so we have subject, background, sky, people, and then the usual stuff. I'm going to go with my usual thing. We're going to do a linear gradient, which gives us a line. We're going to get that kind of centered there and bring it down so it's kind of right at the edge of the water. So it's the water and everything below it. And then we're going to do a subtract brush. And then we're going to go with a color overlay here so I can see what I'm doing. And we're going to start erasing the stuff that's not water and erasing the shoreline. There we go. That's all shoreline. There we go. Cool, cool, cool. Nice bits of darkness that are going to help us out a little bit. Zoom in and do this piece by piece. Let's do this at 50%. Hey, there's a person in my photo. Who allowed that? I told the park not to have any people out there. Just dogs. So we'll get rid of all that. Stuff out here, that's shoreline. That sort of shoreline. Let's get rid of that. Let's come across. Shoreline, shoreline, shoreline. And this is beautifully an inexact science. Does not need to be perfect. There we go. We get rid of some of that. Get rid of these rocks over here. Get rid of some of these rocks here. There we go. And if you're wondering why there's two circles on my little cursor here, the inner one is um, is like the actual brush, and the outer one is kind of a feathering effect, so it softens the edge. The edge is that as soft as that outer circle is. So if I don't want to fully erase something, I can just kind of let the outer circle run along it, and that helps. Okay, that looks pretty good for getting the river. And now we can start playing with that. First thing, bring the texture up. Texture. The way texture works is it finds the edges, however many edges it thinks it detects in there, and it kind of brightens all of those edges. So a totally smooth thing, texture doesn't do much. If it, it'll bring it up a little bit, but it won't find much. But something like this, where you've got all this detail, all this texture in the water, it's going to brighten all those up. So the overall effect is to go from, we just saw this, to go from that, uh, to go from that to that. If I kind of swipe it down versus going back up. So we like that. I can also bring up the highlights on it. A bit much. Let's bring those highlights up just a little bit. Bring up the sky, what the sky does to it. I like that. Gives it a nice, balances the photo nicely. I'm also going to push it a little bit to blue. Not a ton. Could go all the way, and that gets weird. But just a little bit to blue. Just to give that little bit of extra color, a little bit of contrast. We're fans of that. I don't think I need to dehaze this. I don't really need it. I'm going to bring the blacks down a little bit to darken it, but actually, no, I like it soft, which is weird. I don't usually like things to be. I'm a big high contrast fan, but I'm okay with this. Okay, that's cool in terms of masking. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Out of curiosity, if I tell this thing to select the subject, what is it going to give me? Uh, for what it's worth, usually the select subject feature, at least in previous updates. There we go. Yep, usually the select subject feature is good for selecting people. Um, maybe like this, it might have gotten updated so it can select architecture, but never been good with landscapes. But I like to do it just to see what it comes up with. Okay, drink. Delicious. God, I've been fully converted in 3 sips. Wow, pumpkin spice is powerful. Okay, let's see. What else do I want to do here apart from drop this into Photoshop and try something weird with it? Okay, cool. Yeah, we're cool with that. We're gonna click off of masking. Yeah. Come back down here to blues because now there's more blues I can bring up. So I'm gonna bring that up a little bit. Give us a little more nice balance down there. The luminance is already all the way up on blue, so that's fine. Yeah. And I'm looking at I always there's always a benefit when you're doing landscape photography, or I mean any photography, but in terms of composition, it's always a benefit. I love having this little navigator corner up here because I can, here I'm looking at it in terms of details. I'm zooming in, I'm doing that. When I get to, being able to look at the little window and be like, all right, if I just glance at this kind of Instagram size, if I can take a step back and see the picture, what effect is it having on me as a viewer? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I see the river, I see like for some reason, I'm not sure. Like I don't know where most people's eyes are drawn first. I know there's a lot of science that says people's eyes are drawn to white and are drawn to bright colors first. Which by the way, if you want to wear an outfit that makes your face pop out, makes people notice your face first, wear a dark shirt. Same principle. People see bright things and see faces first. If you darken everything else, their eyes will go there immediately. Um, but for some reason, the thing I notice first is this the line between the blue and the between the river and the land. That's where my eye goes first, and I can kind of follow it up to the tree, and I like that. I think that's how this should go. Okay, cool. So that one's looking good. Let's go ahead and throw a star rating on it. I'll take another sip. Excellent. And we will continue on. Let's see. So another photo from Hacklebarney. Ooh, you know what? I did a panorama that I wanted to play with. We're back on land. For those of you want to see what Hacklebarney looks like when you're not walking along the river, something more akin to this. So what I'm gonna do is I took a bunch of photos, kind of basically just standing there, same settings, just tilting the camera down, uh, like that. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go to photo, gonna go to photo merge, and we're gonna do a panorama, and it's gonna create that for us, hopefully. And some of these are gonna look weird. They always do. because it's compensating for imperfections in. Okay, yep, always looks weird. Okay, so we can try different projections. That looks worse. What's perspective? Perspective's the wild card here. Perspective's kind of the one to go with, I think. Okay, so I could do boundary warp and kind of warp it out like that, which is not uncool. Or I can tell it to fill the edges, and that'll do a content-aware fill to create to fill in those gaps, and that looks horrendous. So we're gonna find a middle ground. The edge fill's not working for me. I'm gonna take that out and just boundary warp it. 90%. If I can fill edges from there, just a little bit of extra. See what it gets. Okay. And it's got some weird stuff going on. Lose that. Okay, so that's what that looks like if I go that one. Let's try cylindrical and spherical just to see what they look like if I tell it to do it. Though I think perspective's the way to go here. But I'm a like I can look at these and I can know academically what each of these does and what it's meant to look like and what each of the effects will do, but I still like to see them. But this one with with that warped edge there's something kind of I don't know. I think it's kind of phenomenal. There's something kind of cool about it. Uh, really making Lightroom work on this one. If I take boundary warp down, let's see what we get. Yeah. All the way up, that's what the spherical one looks like, and that just loses a lot. Let's try cylindrical. Let's see if cylindrical can get its act together. Okay, so that's what cylindrical looks like. Normally, if I bring the boundary warp all the way up, it doesn't want to go to 100%. I wonder why. Let's get down to 91 and fill the edges in. And this one actually doesn't look too bad. This might be the way to go. Because it is kind of giving you it's still got that warp, but not to the same degree. And it does kind of start here and bring you along the path. All right, you know what we're gonna do? We are gonna do. We're gonna do it like that. Oh, there we go. Okay. So perspective. You already built the preview. All right, we're gonna do both. We're gonna do both. We're gonna do a cylindrical one and we're gonna do a perspective one. And yeah, I'm aware that I'm probably frozen and skipping, so I will sneak off and drink. I'm back, aren't I? Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so it's creating that panorama. Let's go ahead and tell it to do another one. Edit in. We're gonna do a photo merge and do another panorama. Perspective this time. And we'll compare the two. See which one draws our eye more. All right, boundary warp all the way up. Give me that kind of flying through space kind of thing, and merge it up. Cool. So here we go. There's our first one. That's our cylindrical warp. I hate auto settings. I really do. But it's interesting to see what Lightroom thinks needs to be done with these photos. And I'm skipping again, so you know what else. I guess I absolutely love the dehaze slider. It is, in many ways for me, it feels like the slider that creates the most character in photos. Usually I bring it up, but bringing it down actually gives us a bit of a foggy woods kind of look, and I like that. It gives us a little bit of a haze. And well, it makes sense. Okay. Lightroom thought the contrast needed to be up a little bit. I don't disagree, but I'm going to do that individually with the colors. Um, Shadows could come up a little bit. I don't mind. I'm going to, and the whites. Oh, there's our second panorama. Cool. So there's one and the other one. So that's the perspective versus this one. Yeah, I gotta say, I think I like this one better. This one's got more of a, yeah, I feel more invited in this one. Okay, so we're gonna bring this down a bit. Kind of let's have that tunnel of trees. They're gonna bring this in a little bit. I don't know. Bring it up. We keep the sky, and I kind of like this. It's overexposed, but I like the sky. Bring it down just where those trees kind of cross. There we go. That becomes more of now. There we go. Close. That gives us more of the tunnel of trees effect. It gives us more of an even balance between the path and the not path. Cool. Okay. So let's have that. Let's do a little bit of masking real quick, cause let's see, clarity wise. Yeah, clarity wise, I want the leaves on the ground, but I don't want to do much else with them. So let's do this. I think we're gonna do the linear gradient again. Same thing we did before. In this case, a little bit easier. A little bit simpler. Yeah, let's rotate that a bit. Get it there. Nice. About that, and then subtract brush. I guess I could actually forget that. I can do subtract with another linear gradient. I can subtract just the edges of the pathway kind of on a slant, and that'll do a lot of my work for me if I just do it like that. Good. We'll do another one. This one's going to be a bit more complicated because I'm going to have a brush involved somewhere. But this won't be too bad. Make sure we get everything. There we go. Can angle this kind of just like that. Cool. And now we'll subtract with a brush. No. Let's try that again. Not objects. Subtract with a brush. And now we can use this to just fine tune. Just a little, get that curve just right. There we go. And spots over here just to make sure we're not on those trees. Like that. Did I just get rid of too much? Let's find out. No, that's fine. Cool. All right, let me go back to this linear gradient here and extend it up just a bit. So make sure I get the end of that path. Cool. So now I can bring up the clarity on that. Could dehaze it, don't really want to. I'll leave that where it is. Bring up the highlights on it a little bit. Want to kind of, as I look at the thumbnail up here, I want to kind of make sure that that your eye gets drawn to it without doing anything with color yet. We'll get there. Because there's a nice dividing color that we can work with. Excellent. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. Now let's see. We're going to do a duplicate and invert, which gives us this mask, which I can then, if I remove that gradient, didn't really change much. Undo that, I'm going to keep that, but what I want to do is, let's see. What I want to do is get the sides of the paths. So we're going to, yeah, we are going to get rid of that guy. That guy's not doing us any favors. We're going to subtract with a linear gradient. Bring him up here. Bring him down, just like that. Maybe a little bit up, because I do want to get that edge, and there's not as much going on over here. Going up just a bit. There we go. So now, if I show the overlay, hang on, how did that happen? Working on the wrong thing. This one here. that up like that. There we go. Cool. So now, update the clarity there, but I can also bring the blacks down. Maybe it's just shadows. And you still get the kind of stronger look on the edges while keeping them dark enough that you don't lose the path. Small changes like that. Cool. All right. Let's do. Let's play with color first, then I'll come back and I might do some more masking. All right. Let's click off of that. Let's come down to color. All right. First things first. I don't think there's too much I want to do with color in here. Other than maybe push the greens with hue here. Maybe push the greens a little bit so you get some greens sprinkled in there. Yellows. Yeah, yellows and oranges are going to be affecting this whole thing. Which means pushing the reds is probably a good idea. All right, saturation of the reds, that's mostly just the top, so we're going to bring that down. Oranges, we're affecting the whole thing. Just what happens. But there's more, if you desaturate, I can see there's more orange on the ground than up in the trees. I can see what's affecting what. Whereas if I desaturate the yellows, that's more trees. So, but they're both definitely having an impact on each other. Looking at this photo, what does it need? Pushing the orange a little toward red is not a bad idea. And then if I bring the yellows up, that'll kind of give us, yeah, a little bit like that. Orange is a little much. Maybe something like that. Yeah, I don't hate that. I'll play with luminance down here. Greens. The green saturation's not doing a whole lot in here, so we're gonna leave that alone. There's not really blues, purples and magentas. Same deal as last time. Bring them down so we're not getting too much of a problem in the sky. This sky, unlike the last photo, this sky's being more cut up the way it is by the trees. There's not really those huge patches of it. You don't get as much of that color fringing, which is good. All right, coming down here, let's play with some brightness. That's only up in the sky. Let's take a look. If we bring the luminance all the way down versus all the way up, doesn't change much. Not a lot of information up there. We're gonna bring it down. Same with the magentas and the purples, because those will help. Whatever is recoverable in that white, those colors will help pull out. All right, let's come out here. Let's bring up the greens. Leave the greens where they are. Let's bring up the yellows. I don't know. Yeah, let's bring up the yellows. The orange is kind of where they are, I think. I think something about this is looking weird to me, and I don't love it. Let's put the yellows back. Bring the yellows up. Let's bring the oranges up a little more. There we go. Yeah, this photo needed a little more something. And that's better. Bring the brightness of the oranges up. It's not too bad. Not disliking that really at all. Okay. Let's see what our clipping looks like. Couple spots we're clipping in the blackness, and interesting, we're not clipping on the whites really at all. Maybe tiny bits up there tiny bits up there in the sky, but not much. We're clipping in black more than anything else. And that's totally fine. Sweet. This photo's looking good. I'm loving the curve it has. I'm gonna enhance that by kind of cheating. So I'm going to go down here to enable lens corrections, or enable profile corrections, which usually, yeah, it pre-detects my lens, and I can then adjust, the distortion the lens gives it. Bring the vignetting down. If I turn it off, yeah, so that's what we got to start with, and I can correct the distortion going the other direction, kind of flatten the image out. I don't necessarily want to do that, but if I tell it it's the wrong lens, yeah, if I tell it it's a super wide lens, then by correcting the distortion, I'm actually increasing it. Without, is it really? It's not even, okay, well, you're correcting distortion, you're not going to give me more. Okay, you know what? Let's go the other direction. Let's try a super telephoto lens. Let's try something it's expecting to be too flat and has to add some definition to. These are all yeah, let's scroll down on this. Let's try a super long lens. What do you got? 450 to 500. There we go. That's taking that a little bit of a warp to it. So crank that up, and then without and with. Yeah, you know what? A little bit of that's not too bad. I don't dislike that at all. Just a bit. There we go. Cool. Let's come back up here. What's a blackness up there that I don't love? Let's see what we can do about that. Let's come down here to that. Seemed to fix the problem. Yeah, it was the reds. Okay, we're gonna keep the reds where they are. I bring the magentas down. Purples, nah, same problem. We're gonna leave those where they are for now then. Let's keep that detail up there. Cool. That is starting to look pretty good. I'm gonna come back up here to my oranges and kind of bring them up a little more. Actually, bring the reds up. That'll brighten up the sky and it'll give me a little more brightness in that. Okay, moving on. Let's look at our masks. We're gonna create two new masks. We're gonna do two linear gradients, one just for top and bottom. We'll start with the bottom. I'm gonna adjust them as a whole, so kind of like this, bit of an angle. Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, where the dirt ends and the leaves begin, something like that. Okay, cool. So we can adjust the color. I'm bringing the saturation down a little bit. Actually, no, I think the saturation's fine. I'm gonna bring the colors. I'm playing with the colors a little bit. I push it a little more towards green. You get a little more of a yellowy tone. I could go too far. I don't necessarily want to do that. Go more. That's it's negative 52. Put that back where it was. Could go that way, but that's. Nah, let's just do this. Let's go negative 52 with this. That's too much. Let's come back a bit. Let's go back to here. Somewhere about there. There we go. Something like that seems to work. I like what that looks like on the ground, even if it's a little bit hot. Oh, it's down just a touch. Cool. Can live with that. Okay. Now we're going to do a duplicate and invert. So now we're getting the sky. We're going to push that. That's too much. We're losing all the. That kind of makes it homogeneous, which I don't dislike. I don't know on that one. Let's try a little homogeneity. Let's do it like that. And now we're gonna up the contrast, which gives us, yeah, I don't dislike that. It's a whole bunch of different just shades of yellows and greens and reds. It's a good fall look. I don't have a problem with that at all. All right, cool. The other thing I want to do is let's see if there's any reason to play with clarity. And the clarity's overdoing it. Clarity's gilding a little. Let's play with texture. Texture in the sky, I think, is a good idea. Let's bring that up. Cool. Let's take a look. Yeah, texture-wise, that looks good. Yeah. Okay, one other thing. Let's take these guys. Bring the shadows down a little bit more. So it's less about that. Let's go to this linear gradient here. It's kind of cutting us off. Let's soften that. Make that a softer edge. There we go. So it's doesn't look as abrupt. Okay, cool. We're going to go back to this, back to the main editing. Awesome. I like that one. We're going to give it 3 stars. And then what I'm going to do, I want to do a copy of this. So we're going to do create virtual copy. And we're going to do a black and white version. Because the composition here is really making me happy, and I want to lean into that. So we're going to bring the blacks down. Down, and bring the clarity up. That might be too much. Yeah, bring the clarity up a little bit helps, but not too much. I don't want to lose the detailing that I've done. Cool. And this is gonna be done in color with the color sliders. Let's bring the sky down. Let's do that. Oranges, yeah, orange is gonna be where everything lives. And if greens are doing a little bit, let's bring the if we bring the greens down, it gives us a nice kind of edge to this, and it brings our attention more to the path, which is good. Aquas and blues, non-existent, and then our purples are really just our sky. We'll leave them alone. And our magentas, same deal. Cool. All right, that's a good start. Let's go back to masking. We got a bunch of masks here. We're going to push that tint all the way to there, and then we're going to mess with this gradient. We're going to soften it. So we get a nice, we're going to soften it. Actually, this needs, okay, that's what this needs. Okay, let's put this back. So bring this back down to kind of what it was before, where it's kind of just that line. And then I'm going to add, no, hang on, intersect with another linear gradient. Let's see where this thing's going. It's going there, so let's flip this around. Come on, guys, let me see what I'm doing here. Show the overlay. Perfect, okay. So I'm gonna bring this up all the way to the top. Gonna rotate it a little bit, and we're gonna soften the hell out of it. Go high up and soften. So now, if I take the overlay off, now what we've got is, if I turn this mask off, we've got the darker section here. The trees are still brighter up top, so we can still see them, the definition there, but we've got this darker section in the middle that brings out a little more texture there. I can bring the contrast down a bit so we don't get all of it. There we go. Cool. All right, let's look at our next mask, which is our kind of lower area here. Doesn't need a whole lot. I think it's actually in pretty good shape. I can bring that down, but I think that one's kind of more or less fine as it is. All that was done was about color and brightness. Highlights alone. I think we're overexposing a little bit, but I'm gonna work on that with the mask. It's actually just the pathway. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's go to this one. These are our dark corners. We're gonna bring them up a little bit, up the texture in them, just to give a little bit more something. And then our mask here for the path itself. Bring the highlights down to help give us a little more of that definition. Yeah, put them back where they were is fine. Up the texture. If we bring the highlights back up, we achieve that without messing with the clarity. But let's stick with the clarity for a sec. Clarity is kind of overdoing it. Adjusting the whites a little bit might give us that. I still want to be able to get the detail in there, which is there. That's what I need. Let's bring the shadows and blacks down. Bring the shadows down. And that keeps more of the brightness without losing too much more. Let's see the overlay on this one, 'cause I feel like this one needs a little bit of something. Yeah, okay. Gonna add with a brush. Gonna zoom in to the end of the path here. We're just gonna add this whole area here. Just brighten that up. If I turn the overlay off. There we go. Now we've got a nice bright section that kind of leads us around that corner. I can brighten this up a little more. Let's see the overlay. Good. It's all good. Let's see it. Yeah, I like it. Cool. That's another one done. So, what's this one look like? That one's pretty cool. I like that. What else do I want? I think we got time for one more on this stream, depending how fast I get through it. Kind of this weird side angle one. Let's go ahead and adjust the perspective on that. Did a couple of those where I kind of did a bit of a side angle, which I don't dislike. It's kind of my thing. There we go. Work along that diagonal. Yeah, something like that. Kind of get the diagonal from the water to there. All right, let's play with this one. I feel like this one will be a little bit easier. Clarity's overdoing it. Let's leave clarity alone. Dehaze? Yes. Definitely want to dehaze. Definitely want to bring the highlights down. The blacks down. But the shadows up. Because darkening the blacks gives me a little more of a, seems kind of pulls the color out a little bit. It's almost it's like, yeah, it helps with the dehazing. All right, that's a start. Texture up. I don't know. Texture kind of pulls it a little too much. I think I'll just do texture on the water. Okay, that's good. Let's go. Let's start doing some details. All right, give me a. Let's go linear for a start. Just to get the water, so we stop right there. Subtract the brush. Give me a regular color overlay so I can see what I'm doing. For some reason, and I have no idea why, I have Paradise by the Dashboard Light by Meatloaf stuck in my head. So just, if you want to kind of, tap along to whatever my head is doing, that's the soundtrack right now. Come out to there. If anyone's wondering why landscape photographers take forever to edit photos, this is why. At least this is why I take forever to edit landscape photos. I think we're a little bit on the rocks over there. Let's zoom in. Yeah, let's get some of those rocks cleaned out of here. Let's get this area done. Nice. Let's get that. There we go. Let's get these rocks. Get that a little more rounded. You don't really want a straight line there. Let's see, these rocks over here could use it. But if you're a Lightroom user, one of my favorite things with using a brush makes it super easy is if you use your mouse wheel up and down, it makes the brush bigger and smaller. My friend Jill Ridgway taught me that. She's a fantastic portrait photographer. All right, there we go. Cool. So now we can, well, you know what? I don't like that over there. That over there still feels like we're up on land. Let's get off the land. There we go. That's better. Much better. Okay, so we're gonna push this as we did last time, a little toward blue. Yeah, about 26%. That's fine. Yeah, that doesn't need much more. Actually, that's even a little too much. Let's go back down to about 15%. That's better. Just that little touch of blue, and bring the texture up because texture up on water, we love it. Cool. All right. Yeah. Let's do a. I want to do for the next bit. Do it with a radial gradient. Try a radial gradient. Okay. We're gonna do a radial gradient and then erase a bunch of stuff. We are gonna zoom way out. Let's go to 6%. 12% is gonna be, Yeah, 12% works. Okay, we're gonna do 12%. I want to basically encompass all of the forest here. Look about the water. I want to encompass pretty much the whole forest. So we're gonna do it like that. Come up until we kind of right about there. Good. Okay. So now we're gonna subtract brush. Start off, we're gonna get rid of the water. Step one. Not this huge. For this one, I'm gonna do the color overlay on black and white. I'm gonna bring this back up to just normal because I want to be able to see. There we go. It's funny when I'm like painting, the river on. I want it to be like I want it to be in color. When I'm painting it off, I want it in black and white. I don't know why. Makes more sense to me. Okay, let's zoom this back out. I want to see this at 12% again. My color overlay, please. It's pretty good. I'm gonna erase a little bit of this stuff. Actually, no, I want to keep that. Let's keep that. Let's get rid of this. Those spots there. Cool. All right. So now I might do more work on this in a sec. There we go. That looks pretty good. And now I'm going to do another subtract brush for a different reason. I'm going to drop this. I'm going to go ahead and throw the overlay on so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to drop my density down to about 40%. And density is kind of the if I drop it to 40%, I'm removing 60% by doing this. And I just want to this section in the middle, I kind of want to keep a little brighter. So we darkened everything else. I want to keep this section in the middle a little brighter, but not all the way. I don't want to remove the whole thing. Turn the whole thing off. Yeah, you see it affects the whole thing. I don't want to remove the whole thing. I just want to remove this little part of it. There we go. That's pretty good. All right, I do want to bring that clarity back because I'm not a fan of what that clarity's doing. Actually, the clarity's fine. Let's bring, yeah, something about this is frustrating me a little bit. There we go. Texture, maybe? Yeah, I like the texture. I like the texture bringing us some brightness. Down like that. Let's do it that way. That looks pretty good to me. Let's bring it back to normal, to full screen. Cool. Done with masking. The one thing we cropped this a little bit at the beginning. Do I want to crop it any differently? I don't think so. I like the composition of it. I like it better from a wide than looking at it close up, but that's fine. Let's bring it back to 50%. Yeah, details are pretty good. Let's come down and see if there's any color work to be done. I want to bring up the luminance of my blues just a bit. Luminance of yellows is too much. Luminance of orange is too much. Luminance of red might be the way to go, though. Yeah, a little bit of brightness there. Luminance of greens. Yeah, highlights the texture, highlights the contrast. Love it. A little bit of the oranges up is good to compensate for this big white. We kind of have, it's not a reflection, but we kind of have this big white chunk up here and then a big white chunk down here, which works pretty well. I like them complement each other. Bring up the saturation on the blue. I don't mind it bringing up a little bit because it's bluer down here and not as much up there. It kind of works on a gradient. I think I'm going to do that as a separate thing. Let's see. Aqua's not doing a thing. Greens. Could up the saturation. Don't really need to. It's kind of doing fine. Oranges does the whole thing. Or yellows does the whole thing. And oranges also kind of does the whole thing. Yeah, a little more orange. And then reds. Reds is doing bugger all. So we'll leave red alone. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do one other thing to do. Let's see. I want to check my crop again a little bit. I might want to pull this back just a touch. Yeah, something like that. Go with that. I like that. All right. close this. Let's do one more mask, I think. Let's look at this mask with the overlay on it real quick. Zoom this back out to 12. Still looks fine. Okay. Let's do one more mask here. We're going to keep it on. Wait a minute, why is that there? Let's get rid of that section. Oop. Why is that adding? That's supposed to be a subtract brush. Let's try this again. Subtract brush. Let's get rid of that stuff over there. Bring the density back up. Get rid of that stuff in the corner. It's not supposed to be there. Cool. That helps bring up the reds in the side that we missed. Excellent. And now we're going to duplicate this mask, which duplicates the effect, which I don't want to do. We're going to put the texture back. We're going to put the tint back. We're going to let the color just go back to what we had from the first mask. Yeah, we can turn the overlay off at this point because I know what it does. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to crank up the saturation so it gets really entirely too blue. Not too blue. Just like, I want to get the blue that I want down here. So maybe, I don't know, 30%? That's not bad. And then we're going to intersect this with a linear gradient. This I want to see the overlay on. Good. So I can then rotate this. Put a nice long fade going all the way up there. And you'll notice, even if I extend this all the way, it's only filling in the spot that's already filled in with the mask because we're intersecting. Rotate that so it just kind of lines up right along that axis. Not quite there, kind of like that. The axis is a little weird. Yeah, like that. Cool. Pull this back so it does, yeah, something like that. Let's go a little bigger. There we go. Turn the overlay off. It's a very subtle change, but I like that. It gives us that nice little bit more blue here, and then it gradually kind of fades up as we get there. Cool. Excellent. Give that one 3 stars as well. All right. Yeah, I think on that note, let's go ahead and take a look at the photos we edited. Go to our ratings section. Not there's any different ratings, but here are our 3-star photos. So let's fit it up. There's that one. This one that we started with. It's going to snap into focus. There we go. Looks good. I want to tweak this a little bit, looking back at it. We got this mask here, where we brought the clarity up. What I want to, let's do a duplicate and invert. So we get a mask that's right in the middle. And then we're gonna bring the clarity up a little bit on it. Not as much. That's the difference. There we go. Yeah, so that one goes up to 40. This one's going up to 30 or 24. Just a little bit to, yeah, make it match in, make it stand out a little more, but still keep it definitely editing it slightly differently to make it stand apart. And then we got this one, which is our cool warped journey through the woods. Without the masking. I think I want to bring those shadows up a touch more and the blacks down a touch more. Let me bring this. Oop, that's a thing that this thing auto settings did. Excellent. It is, aside from tea, this channel is designed to be watched with pudding. For anyone who's, if you're first time here, watch this channel with pudding. It is part of the design. Ah, there we go. That's pretty good. Delicate balancer. I like that a lot. And then our black and white version, which looks like that. Yeah, brings in some detail there. It's still a little bit bright on the ground. Let's fix that real fast before we jump off this. Which would be here, this mask. You know what? I'm gonna do another duplicate. So let's do a duplicate mask 1. Let's go to mask 1 copy and let's reset all this stuff. Evelyn and Mia, it just seemed like a good day for pudding. Like, yeah, no secret there. I just had a feeling that today was a pudding day. So if you were eating pudding with today's stream, you're ahead of the curve. Nice job. All right, so that mask there that we just did, what I want to do is I want to bring the not the whites, it's just the highlights. The highlights are the lighter version. Let's bring the highlights down a little bit so they don't quite kick us in the face as much as that. And then we'll do intersect with linear gradient one more time. I've used more linear gradients on this stream than I've done in like, I feel like months. All right, let's see the overlay here. All right, we're gonna flip this one around. There we go. Now we're gonna do it this way, flip it this way. If I turn this mask off, I lose the overlay, guys. I just need to see it on and off. Good. So with it on, yes, with it on, that area is darker. Give me this linear gradient again, so I can do a nice smooth. There. Cool. And that darkens the beginning. It darkens the beginning of the path while keeping the end of the path still the bright kind of centerpiece we're going for. Which I should do one more thing. New mask, brush. This is gonna be a real simple little touch up. Let's see. We're just gonna do a little brush down here, just at the end of the trail. That little tiny curve, maybe a little bit something like that. Cool. And just for this, I'm just gonna bring up the highlights. The whites are a bit much. Let's put them down. All right, cool. Now I'm gonna do one other thing. Let's zoom in more. That's too much. Let's go into 50%. Let's go to 33%. That's better. Gives me the right size to work with. I'm gonna bring the whites up just a touch. It's more than a touch, just a little bit. Just like that. Cool. Now I want to see the overlay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my flow down to about 50%. And I'm going to start doing big kind of sweeps here, here. A couple of things just like that. Just little bits like that. There we go. Turn the overlay off. Yeah. Keeps the end brighter without it being clearly a brightened section. Just kind of, if density is kind of the, I'll bring the flow down even more. If density is kind of the set it to remove a certain amount, flow is the, like, it will, it's basically flows the amount of paint on the brush. So if I brush over it more, it will show up more. In this case, if I do kind of incrementally less and less in the flow, it will have the effect of fading, which is good. Just like that. Turn that off. Awesome. Love it. All right, close that. Okay, so yeah, with that said, we got four of these nice fall photos done. We got this nice black and white. We got this super saturated trip down this trail. We got this one with the river and my favorite tree, and then we got this kind of twisted one that is I'm always a fan of because I don't know, I look at this and I'm like, all right, that's like looking at it here, I noticed the angle, and the angle is a big thing. Looking at it in the thumbnail, it looks like a page out of a storybook. I don't know why. I don't know why what that is, but for some reason that just gives me like over the garden wall kind of vibes, and I'm all about it. So yeah, cool. All right, let's come back to just me for a sec. So yeah, that'll be it for the stream for today. May come back on later around 5 and do another stream doing a different area. Today's a photo editing day, so I wanna share as much as I can. But yeah, we'll see what that happens. We'll see if I feel like staying in the room or going out and editing somewhere else. But yeah, with that said, thank you for joining. Thank you for being part of it. Thank you for letting me share some of these fall photos. It's very fun. Um, not gonna be posting on Instagram as much anymore, except for the stuff that's already scheduled. So I'll be updating on my personal Facebook page. But I will be posting these to my portfolio, which is I'm trying to remember the exact. Let me pull up the exact address real fast just so I remember. Because I forget what goes first on that website. It is nope, that's the wrong one. There we go. Cool. So the website is erichackler.zenfolio.com. Zenfolio. Erichackler.zenfolio.com is where you'll find these photos as I upload them either tonight or tomorrow. So yeah, plus anything else that I upload that I edit because I've got a few other photos from Shenandoah that I've worked on. We're gonna start getting into some wildlife. We'll see what we do. All right. With that said, thanks for joining. Thank you for taking this trip into New Jersey autumn with me, and looking forward to continuing our whatever adventures we have through my lens and through Lightroom. So yeah, with all that said, be safe, make good art, share good art, go out there, be awesome, and yeah, keep kicking ass. Stay safe, get out there and have fun in the fall. Later.